get our Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report. We will do that when we come back. We are going to have Manny Navarro, baby, and the Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report. It is coming up right here with the man, the myth, the legend, that is Manny Navarro.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or innermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where Inner Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
The viewpoint statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyXS.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website. Time for Canes fans to get what they want. Information, insight, and perspective. It's the Caneswear Miami Hurricanes Report with Manny Navarro. Exclusively on the Big O Radio Show. Here's Big O and insider Manny Navarro.
All righty. We are ready to rock. We are ready to roll. Manny Navarro is here for our Caneswear Miami Hurricanes Report. And, of course, you can follow my man Manny on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. Catch him, of course, here twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. And also, we want you to subscribe to The Athletic. It's incredibly affordable, and the coverage is absolutely awesome. They do great work. And obviously, Manny leading the charge here locally, as always. Manny, how you doing, my brother? How you hanging, baby?
I'm doing great, Big O. I'm getting ready to head back down to Coral Gables a little later tonight for the continuation of camp. We got a chance to watch Friday and Saturday, and then Manny Diaz closed things up to us on Sunday and Monday. But we'll get a chance to watch 40 more minutes today in pads. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right. How did De'Aaron King look to you?
Yeah, I think he looked like himself. You know, I really didn't see much of a difference. I think it was important for him to cut on that knee. He did that the first day of practice, had one of those read options where he kept the ball and basically, you know, planted down on that knee and made a move to get past somebody in the secondary. And, you know, he looked just as good as he did last year to me. I think, you know, all of the worries and concerns are obviously merited, right? There's all reason to worry about a guy coming off of a torn ACL and torn meniscus. But I think as far as, you know, getting through the first few days of practice and looking like De'Aaron King, I think he certainly looks like De'Aaron King. Okay. All right.
Did any of the receivers stand out to you? Because obviously we need some receivers to step up big time.
Yeah, I think this Keyshawn Smith kid, who I've been telling you about for over a year now, the kid out of San Diego, I think he's every bit of the great player that Miami's hoping he is. You know, he's a guy who was tearing it up in practices last year. And then, you know, he gets to the springtime and he has like an ankle or foot issue, so he doesn't really get to play the entire spring. And then he shows up in the spring game and he scores 2 touchdowns and he makes some great moves, some great catches. And you're just like, okay, this guy has what you want at that position. And it's pretty obvious from day one. I mean, he's running with the first team right there with Mike Harley and Charleston Rambo. And, you know, the fact that he's emerging, I think Michael Redding, who's a second-year freshman, a guy who came in last year and was dealing with injuries as well early on, he looked really good the first couple of days. I think there are replacements for D. Wiggins and Mark Pope, which is what Miami fans are really hoping for, right? The two guys who just can't hold on to the football. I think both of these guys, these young guys, look legit. And I like Xavier Restrepo. Even if he drops a couple passes, he makes some great catches in practice. He goes full effort, diving for the ball here and there. You know, I think they've got a good group of young receivers where you say, well, who's Jake Garcia and Tyler Van Dyke going to throw the ball to, right, the next couple of years once De'Aaron King's gone? I don't think that's an issue.
All right. That's good. That's at least good to know that you got a young receiver that is stepping up. Let me go back to De'Aaron King. I forgot to ask you about the NIL deal he signed with the Panthers.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was talking about this yesterday because it's great for De'Aaron King and all that, and take advantage, get all the money you can as long as you're going to be here. You don't even know if you're ever going to really play in the NFL and all that good stuff. So God bless him, bro. Take the money. But I actually think it was a genius move by the Panthers. more than
Absolutely.
actually. I think I think the Marlins need to hire 10 kids. Okay, from like
Right.
seriously. I mean, that's so genius because I'm not telling you thousands are going to flock over to see the Panthers because of Derek King, but you might get a few people. You might get more eyes to at least watch you on television, those kind of things. But I love the fact that the Panthers did this because it showed. Listen, you've been around this place long enough, and all of us that are in the media. While I
Mhm.
know the team hasn't gotten over the hump, everyone in the media appreciates the hell out of the Panthers. We all
Right.
respect the Panthers because we know that their owners, like, dude, they are committed. They're kicking ass. They're trying. Their media people are so phenomenal at helping you get everybody. And they're always they get it. Like, unlike the Marlins that don't get it, that haven't gone out of the way to try to promote their team. And Lord knows you work that beat. You know what the hell I'm talking about.
7
You know,
years. Yep.
yeah, these guys, they get it, bro. And I think everybody secretly in the media roots for the Panthers only because as a media member, you're like, man, dude, these people are a pleasure to work with all the time.
Mhm.
The owners care, they want to win. So I think most of us want to see them succeed, and they're trying everything possible to succeed. Sign their players, bring the best coach, the best GM, improve the arena, improve the practice arena, add a hockey rink to the War Memorial to try to create, skating and hockey, more of a culture of our town, like Riley and company did with basketball, all those kind of things. For me, that's what I was more impressed with, the forward thinking of the Panthers, not
Yep.
so much, Derek King getting the money.
Well, I agree with you. I think, sometimes you have to tap into what people are paying attention to. And right now, everybody's paying attention to football, right? And Derek King is very likable, very marketable talent. And I think for the Panthers to say, hey, you know what? We want to see if we can get some Hurricanes fans to give us a look, right? Manny Diaz went last year during their playoff run. He was there. Made an appearance, and so I think these kind of partnerships help. They certainly get the eye of Hurricanes fans. While all of a sudden they're like, "Oh wow, the Panthers did that," Well, maybe I should go watch a game this year or something. And what every little bit helps. And and I think from the college perspective, from Miami, having these kind of partnerships with the professional teams helps them as well. I mean, it's another reason for a recruit who says, do I want to go play in South Carolina? Do I want to go play in Tennessee? Wow, Derek King just got himself a deal with a professional hockey team. Maybe I'm good enough to get that one day, and whatever little bit helps attract recruits to Miami Hurricanes, I think it's a good idea. And so I'm happy for Derek. I'm happy he's getting some money here. Who knows what kind of money he's going to make in the NFL? I don't expect him to be drafted very high. If he's drafted at all, especially, he's playing quarterback. I would tend to think he's probably going to switch positions at the next level. But either way, he's making money and he's making inroads, more importantly, because here's a guy who looks at the college game, looks at NIL and says, this might be a profession for me. Maybe I'm a guy who becomes an agent, and helps athletes down the road. So I think, it's a win-win on both sides.
Now, let me ask you, because have you heard from coaches or people in the program that maybe are there negatives that they're anticipating to all of this? Because the negative I want to ask you about, what about those guys busting their asses and helping the team win and play hard and all that, but they're role players and they're not getting any money whatsoever, and they're not the stars. But dude, the guard is helping you win. You know what I'm saying? The gunner is helping you win. So they may not be the high profile positions, but those guys aren't getting the NIL deals. How much of that is going to create resentment in locker rooms, not just all across the country? Okay, let's be fair. This is a problem that every team may end up having, in the end. So what kind of problems have you heard about or talked about with other people? Is this something that they anticipate? Is there anything else that we don't know about?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be one of those things that once the season comes along and guys have to start, I guess, doing their jobs, right? Doing these NIL jobs, these promotional type jobs, does it become a distraction? Do the coaches get angry with the athletes and say, hey, you got to prioritize football. I think at Miami, in their case, and I know beyond, you asked me beyond Miami, but I think with Miami's case, at the very least, you have the right kind of leader in Derek King, who's trying to get teammates involved in getting their own deals. But we don't know if that's the case.
I'm just worried about the left tackle that Derek King's getting all these deals, he's getting all the stats, he's getting all the pub, and the left tackle's going, yo, mofo, I'm keeping your ass upright so you can make all this cash. Where's my money? And I got to think that there's going to be some of that, dude.
I'm sure there will be. I think behind the scenes, there's going to be some jealousy. I mean, it's only natural, right? Guys want to all get a piece of the pie. I think in Miami's case, this Dan Lambert deal where every one of them gets $500, the whole team is getting something. I think that helps smooth a lot of it over. And I think De'Eric smooths a lot of it over. He brings his guys with him. He brings Ryan Rigoni, his the former walk-on linebacker, who does the podcast with him. He brings him along to his events. He brings Lou Headley, who we know can't get paid, right? But Lou comes along, and I'm sure they give him something under the table. I mean, there's little deals to get everybody something. And De'Eric's the kind of leader who's looking out for his buddies. And will that continue in the future? I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a special kid like De'Eric who's one of the few who's going to do it. But I think yes. I anticipate problems somewhere in college football? I'm sure there will be. I'm sure we will hear about it. We're just getting into the beginning of camp now, and so we'll see though during the regular season when the team loses the first 2 games, right? Maybe a kid all of a sudden's like, screw this. I'm worried about my money. And they're not going to be as committed to their team. I agree. I think all of this is new territory that we're just going to have to see what happens when we get there.
It's Headley's Australian, right?
Yep.
Okay, so Jameson was crabs. Well, with him it'll be shrimp, so he can go on the
there
bobby, and that's it. Give him some shrimps, and he'll be fine. Offensive line, everything fine. I know they're experienced as hell and deep as hell as it is in that position. How did they look early on there? What'd you see?
Well, I want to see them in pads, obviously. Seeing them in shorts and helmets, there's only so much you can do with that. But I think,
there was no surprises on the line for you?
Well, there was an injury to John Campbell, and he was a guy who has been a starter in the past. He started 6 games at Miami. He tore his ACL over the summer. I don't know the specifics of how it happened. I've been trying to get the details of that, but he was kind of their 6th or 7th guy, kind of the first guy off the bench, backup left tackle. And so there's been a little bit of maneuvering. What's that?
I said Jesse Davis of UM. Is that what he is?
Yeah, I mean, that's where you have depth, right? It's guys like him. He's the guy who comes in when Zion Nelson, rolls his ankle or whatever, and he has to sit out a game or 2. That's the guy who comes in. Right. So they've done some shuffling. They moved DJ Scaife, who has started a bunch of games and is kind of like the 6th man this year. They moved him to left tackle, and then the new kid that they got from UNLV, Justice Alawasun, the transfer. Who started a bunch of games over there for UNLV and played for Garen Justice when Garen Justice was there. He's now over at right tackle backing up Jared Williams. So there's been some maneuvering here and there. Miami's depth took a hit, not a huge hit, but they took a hit. And, hopefully they stay healthy the rest of camp and they don't lose any more guys. Because I think once you get into we can play 8 guys we feel real comfortable with, 2. We can play 7 guys we feel real comfortable with, or 6. That's when you get into trouble because the injuries are going to come.
All right, I asked you about this last week, and you were actually writing about it, but you got a little taste. Again, they're not in pads and everything, but the backup quarterback position.
Yeah.
Did you get any? Is there any clarity for you in that one?
Well, Rhett Lashley kind of said what I expected him to say, which is this is something that could carry on all the way up to the first game. And maybe through the whole season because they know they don't want to announce a backup. But I'll tell you this, Tyler Van Dyke was taking all the snaps with the number 2s. And part of that was because Manny Diaz wanted all of the freshmen together on the 3rd team, right? All the new guys that arrived. He wants to kind of play them at their own speed, give them their work. And so I think right now you'd have to say Tyler Van Dyke is in the lead. And I'll tell you, of the 2 quarterbacks, he looked a lot better. Jake Garcia, and I didn't write this, I didn't tweet this, I'm telling you guys, threw quite a few amount of picks those first couple of days. And not all of it was his fault. I think a lot of it was receivers not running the route that they were supposed to run, confusion, slipping, all those kind of things that happen. But I thought TBD looked really, really good with the second unit. He had some great chemistry with Michael Redding. and Keyshawn Smith, the younger guys that could potentially be who he throws the ball to for the next couple of years. He looked like a guy who was going into his second year. Jake Garcia looked like a guy who had only been here for spring.
Okay. Secondary. I know they're not in pads, but the secondary is something you can measure a little bit there at times. And that's something that we've all been concerned about. What do you see there right now?
Well, I think you can see the difference in the coaching with Travaris Robinson and DeMarcus Van Dyke taking over both of those positions. And I mean that in a way that you see them being a lot more aggressive, a lot more physical. I was really impressed with DJ Ivey, a guy who's been here, is just going into his fourth year, who's looked average. I think there's been games where he's played well, and then he's had moments where he doesn't turn around, to look for the ball, and he gets beat. I thought he was uber aggressive. I thought, just fighting at the line of scrimmage, bumping guys, playing that aggressive style that you want your cornerbacks to play. He was impressive. And overall, I would say, the secondary as a whole, again, just getting their hands on balls, deflecting, stripping. There was one play on Saturday where Mike Harley caught a ball over the middle. I think this was 7-on-7 or 11-on-11. And Bubba Bolden, instead of, just coming and tapping and, hey, this is where we made the tackle, right, when they're in shorts. Like, he went in there, he dove, and he knocked the ball out of Harley's hands. And I asked Amari Carter afterward, I said, hey, is there some sort of, why are you guys being so ultra aggressive all of a sudden? And this is just the first couple of days. He says, well, this is something that Manny and Travaris Robinson, T-Rob really want us to do. They want us to be more aggressive in getting balls out. And let's not forget, in 2017, when Miami went, 10-0 and had us all excited down here when they were number 2 in the country, they were great because they forced turnovers. And I see more of that sort of aggressive style with this group.
With Manny hands-on,
yep.
Is there you said you saw a difference in the secondary? Are you seeing a difference overall with Manny? Because
usually lot more energy.
And usually when the head coach, this is on the pro level, on the college level, it doesn't matter. When the head coach wants to coach one side of the ball, it's almost like players are even more alert because, dude, it's the head coach. It's the ultimate boss. It's the guy that can completely decide my fate. So I'm wondering how they're responding to Manny now.
Oh, there's no question. To me, you see a lot more energy. You see a lot more bounce on that side of the ball. Look, we weren't able to watch practices last year, but from what I remember of 2019, I mean, the way players talked about Blake Baker and yes, they said they respected these guys, but you can tell there's a difference with Manny Diaz out there. Like, the kids are smiling, they're jumping up and down, he's getting into it. So, I mean, look, that to me is where they're going to have to be different this year is defensively, right? We saw it in the North Carolina game. They cannot be that horrible or they're not going to win. They're going to be a 500 team, even with the good offense with De'Aaron King. So to me, the early just sort of energy that you see on the defensive side of the ball, it's there. And you can tell that Manny has a big influence on it.
Remember, you can follow Manny Navarro on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. Catch his work there at The Athletic, folks. Make sure you subscribe to The Athletic. They do great work. And, of course, you can catch him here twice a week on Tuesdays and on Fridays with the Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report right here exclusively on our show. All right, Manny, when we look at damn, what was I going to tell? Oh, the tight end. Our boy, what's his name?
Will Mallory.
Mallory. I saw some sound bites and all that. I get the feeling that this is a kid that it's kind of like Release the Kraken. He kind of like feels like, okay, dude, this is my effing stage now. And I don't have this other monster next to me that is taking away, some spotlight. I almost felt like Mallory is looking forward to this like a junkyard dog, like, to really take advantage and showcase himself. Is that what I'm reading from afar?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you just look at the tight end position and, Elijah Arroyo, the freshman that they got out of Texas, huge dude. He's bigger than Will Mallory already. Okay. But, this is his freshman year. Is he going to be ready to really learn how to block the way a tight end needs to block? Is he going to, do all of his assignments the way that he needs to. There's not a clear-cut number two tight end this year. And, Brevin Jordan, when he was here, always had Will Mallory, right? It was kind of him and Will together. So I think from a statistical and dollar signs approach, right, I think Will Mallory's licking his chops because he knows he's probably going to have a huge year statistically for the Hurricanes. So, yeah, I agree. I think I saw the same thing you did. I saw a kid who's excited that he's going to be able to be the man finally. He doesn't have Brevin Jordan in front of him anymore. And and it was nothing personal with Brevin. They were very good friends. But let's face it, man, Brevin went in the 5th round. I think Will Mallory with a huge season, showing people that he's dependable and healthy and can block and be a better player than he's been so far. I think he's the kind of guy, that position in football nowadays, so valuable, right?
Yeah, man. If you catch, bro, come on. Are you kidding me?
I mean, he can make some money, and I think he's got the body and the skills to go higher than Brevin did. Brevin, of course, was hurt by the injuries. I think if Will stays healthy, I think if Will stays healthy, I think he's a day 2 pick.
Yeah, Brevin probably would have been easily a 2nd round pick if he doesn't have an injury history. Easily, maybe even first, first with the kind of skill set that he has. But it's a shame, unfortunately, and that's durability is an issue, man. You need to be reliable. All right, running back. I saw you're tweeting out Cam Harris was running at 124 miles an hour.
At 24, yeah.
Although I was laughing where De'Aaron King was like, no, man, I needed to get out in the open field so I can hit 21 miles an hour or something like that. Saying, which was kind of funny. The running back spot, that's one where we know the very talented young guys that are behind Cam. I know, again, no pads, so it's tough. And now when you get pads and you start to see it, you'll get a better feel. But what are you sensing right now with the 2 young guys behind Cam?
Well, I think, the coaching staff wants to definitely have, 2 guys that they can rotate, keep each other fresh. And then ultimately, I think in the 4th quarter, it's about, who's the hot guy. You ride the hot hand in the last quarter. But I think initially, Cam physically looks the part. I mean, he's up to 214 pounds now. Bruce Feldman came out with his freaks list yesterday, the 101 freaks in college football. Cam Harris was number 50. Him and Jordan Miller, Miami's defensive tackle, were the only 2 Hurricanes that came on the list. But you look at his numbers, it's ridiculous. And, supposedly ran 23 miles an hour in a game last year, according to what Miami's people have said. I know I tweeted out 24. It was supposed to be 20. I misheard when they shouted out the number. But the point is, physically he's got all the talent. To me, the issue with Cam Harris has always been reading holes and the vision, which is really the number one thing for a running back, right? That makes him special. So, I think he starts. I think he plays the majority of the lead role early in the season, just like he did last year. But I wouldn't rule out Don Chaney Jr., who was getting snaps and getting carries in practice, even with coming off the shoulder surgery and the shoulder injury. They were giving him some inside handoff work. I think in the end, you tell me, Manny, who's the better draft pick? I think Don Chaney Jr. is probably the better NFL of the 3. You look at Jalen Knighton, he's very thin. He's 180 pounds. The other guys are well over 200. I think Jalen Knighton's kind of your running back out of the backfield catching passes, your change of pace guy, 3rd down type guy. So I think that's the way things are going to break down. But look, they've got a lot of talent at that position. The Thaddeus Franklin kid, who they signed, the freshman out of Hollywood Chaminade, he's a grown man. I mean, all of these freshmen, they have like ridiculous bodies. Like Miami, you could tell Miami's like, okay, we're not taking short guys anymore. We're not taking little like.
Hey, you're going if you want to beat Alabama and Clemson, you better have some big boys, dude.
Yeah, and so that's what's evident. I think after the first 2 days is the freshmen, the guys that they've got coming in here are grown men.
Yeah, that definitely is. All right, before I let you go, Nick Cave on the chat board is asking, "What's up, Manny? How's Austin Cave looking at middle linebacker? Looks bigger," he says, and he says New Jersey Cane.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, he had, I think it was Tyreek. He had a pick off of deflection early, I think on Saturday, and was jumping up and down, and everybody was all excited, and so it's good to see that he's making an impact. All these young guys, oh, you think about what they went through last year with COVID, right? I mean, your first year in college, and that's the crap you got to deal. I mean, how does that hurt development, right? You don't get the to train the way that you're supposed to train in the off season because of COVID. So all of these guys, I think, are kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit, but you can see talent. I really think the last 2 signing classes that Manny's had, 2020, 2021, I really like the talent in that room. People say, when are they going to look like the U again? I see more of those guys that look like they belong at the U. And Cave is a guy that, to me, physically, if he puts on some more weight, can be, and he could be the starter in 2 years or a year, depending on what the situation is.
All right, good stuff. What are you working on The Athletic, my man, so people can check you out?
Yeah, well, I just put out a new podcast, the Wide Right podcast. I put that out. I recorded it last night, and it was about an hour and a half of Hurricanes conversation on Manny Diaz and Bobby Bowden, and I kind of raised the question, can Manny be a Bobby Bowden at Miami? Could he be a guy who settles into a role where he's maybe the stability, the stable force that Miami's never had at that position?
If he wins, he has everything else. If he wins, yes.
Yeah.
Because he has the personality. He's a Miami guy. He knows the program. He bleeds the program. He could be a lifer, actually, I think, if he does it. But he's got the one thing left. He's got to figure it out on the field. That's it.
Absolutely. I think he's got and that's what we talked about, is all the ingredients as far as hiring the right coaches, changing the scheme, the way that he's, changed the recruiting department. He's modernized Miami in a lot of ways. Now it's just about winning. And, if he can get that right, I think he has that future, that potential future where he could be here, 15, 20 years and maybe win a couple championships. We'll see.
Yeah. The only thing I will say is he's now getting into dangerous territory as a head coach, because I'll tell you from my personal experiences, I love Manny. I wanted him to come here. Obviously, I was fine with them giving the $4 million to get him here because I thought he was the right guy. Loved him as a defensive coordinator. Love his enthusiasm. Love his off seasons. Love when he talks. But the problem is now that the last couple of years, the talk has not matched what's gone on the field. So all of a sudden now, when he talks, I am the peanuts and I'm in classroom. And all I'm hearing is wah, 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 wah. And that's my problem that I'm running into with Manny. And if Manny doesn't start to show the substance on the field, everything else he says and does in the off seasons will just fall on deaf ears when it's all said and done. You know what I mean? And that's my problem with Manny. And I'm sure that other people are getting to that point where they feel they're Charlie Brown sitting in the teachers, thing, wah, 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 because it's becoming all talk and not enough show out on the field. And to me, that's the last part of his equation. Everything else looks fine, dude. And whatever problem they have, he fixes it every offseason. It looks like he addresses it all. It looks like now that the recruits are getting better, like you're telling us about. They're bringing in these mammoth human beings, and all we ever hear is people say, I stepped out on the field and I looked at the Clemson players and I looked at the Miami players and I said, oh my God, I stepped out on the field. I look at Alabama players and I look at Miami players. I'm like, oh my God. So all of a sudden, all these things are changing. You're doing it, but the results are still the same. And to me, that's the last part of his equation that he needs, dude. That's all he needs. That's it.
You're right. And he'll have the big test week 1, man. I mean, against the guy who, for whatever reason, being the great college coach that he is, he always makes guys look bad on week 1, man. When he's got time to game plan, he can pick you apart completely. And he certainly knows Rhett Lashley from having coached against Auburn all those years.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. One more thing before I let you go, because somebody mentioned this, and you tell me if I gave him the right answer. Because one guy goes, well, he's got to get it done this year, or if not, Manny needs to go. And I said, no matter what happens this year, he ain't getting fired. There's no hot seat for him. We might put him on a hot seat, but I don't think the U is going to put him on a hot seat. Plus, Blake James hasn't made any athletic hires. This is the only one he's made. And he had to trade $4 million in order to make this hire. There is zero chance that he fires him, because then that would be all on him. there's zero chance that he puts him on hot water this year. It would take a couple more years before Blake James puts him on hot water, because then Blake James knows he's also on hot water, because the president's going to go, well, wait a minute, dude, this is your guy. You hired him. You traded for him and everything. You gave $4 million to bring this guy in, and he's not good enough. You're going to fire him. And I think Blake James ends up being on the hot seat if he puts Manny on the hot seat. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the only way Manny's fired after this season is if Blake James is fired and they cut ties with him as athletic director. And I just don't see that happening. He's raised so much money for the university. I think it would have to take a complete and total implosion for Manny Diaz to lose his job. And, that can happen, right? You have a couple of injuries here and there, and the season can go sideways. All of a sudden you're 500 again. But I just think,
or he becomes Andrew Cuomo Jr. or something, and then
something like that, some off the field issue,
right?
I think that's it, and he's got 2 years left after this season on his contract, and we'll start hearing about an extension. In my opinion, I think by the time this season is ending, we will start to hear that conversation, simply because if he does well and they win 10 games and go to a major bowl or do what they need to do, get some guys drafted in the first round and develop players, then he's everything you want him to be. You just need him to, get to the point where he can beat Clemson.
Follow him on Twitter, Manny_Navarro. Catch his work there at The Athletic. And, of course, catch him here twice a week. He'll be back on Friday. Manny, as always, you're a stud, my brother. Thank you for taking some time.
Big O, thanks for having me, man. Look forward to seeing you, talking to you on Friday.
You got it, baby. Be good. There you go. The great Manny Navarro. Good stuff there. Always love having Manny on the show, baby. It's a beautiful thing. The Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or innermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where Inner Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.